I too worked in corporate America, right? And I too had to wrestle with if it was time to go. I actually have 5 signs that it's time for you to go ahead and transition out of corporate America and into your own thing. So if you're on the fence and you're going back and forth, hopefully if any of these 5 signs ring a bell for you, you can begin making plans right now. Hey, Courtney Sanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time certified 7-figure life and business coach, as well as wife and mom CEO. I wear all the hats and do all the things. And I've been doing it for a long time, but I too, and I say I too, because maybe you are in this position as you are watching this, I too worked in corporate America, right? And I too had to wrestle with if it was time to go. So if you are, you've been thinking about it, you want to build this business on the side, you see other people doing it successfully, you're starting to believe that it's possible for you, but you don't know if the timing is right. You just want to know, what are the signs that it's time to go, right? What are the signs that I need to get up out of here? We're going to go over that today. I actually have 5 signs that it's time for you to go ahead and transition out of corporate America and into your own thing. So if you're on the fence and you're going back and forth, hopefully if any of these 5 signs ring a bell for you, you can begin making plans right now. So with that, let's get into it. All right, the first sign that it's probably time for you to start thinking about your exit plan out of corporate America is if you find that you keep getting into negative leadership changes, right? So oftentimes you come into a company, it's really amazing, and then they have a leadership change and maybe the CEO isn't that great, or your direct, supervisor or manager or director, whoever you report to is not that great. If you find that you keep finding yourself in this situation, right, and you keep having to hop to another corporate job, it might be a sign that it's just time for you to leave corporate America altogether. Because, not to say that these people are terrible, right? I'm not judging your experience. If you're like, no, I've had the last 5 managers, Courtney, you don't understand. The last 5 directors, my last 5 CEOs have been terrible. That could be the case. They might be terrible, terrible leaders. However, if you're finding that you're not able to find success or really just peace and serenity in your corporate position, despite moving through all of these different leadership changes, there might be something to say about you, right? And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person, but it just might mean that you are meant to be an entrepreneur. You might need to be the leader, right? You keep waiting for the next leadership change, thinking that it's going to be different, but the leadership change that you're really waiting on is yourself. You are waiting on yourself to step up and be the leader in your own life and in your own career. So if you've experienced this a few times and you're watching this video because you're like, yep, this just happened to me. I was just on LinkedIn the other day thinking about putting in another job posting. Let's pump the brakes and let's consider maybe doing your own thing, because you'll be a lot happier when you're ultimately leading yourself. Now, going along with that, the second sign that it's just time for you to go is if you're finding that you don't have the wherewithal to deal with all of the microaggressions and office politics anymore. I think sometimes we underestimate how significant this can be, because it's almost like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Maybe nothing major has happened, no one, has cursed you out at work or anything like that, but you go into work day in and day out and you're dealing with these microaggressions with your coworkers, you're dealing with office politics, this person is trying to maneuver this way, and you, even though you have nothing to do with it because your position just happens to be affecting their position, now they, have the daggers out for you. All of that is very emotionally taxing, and it really prevents you from operating in your superpower and really operating in your gifting. And so if you find that you are just inundated under the weight of all of these microaggressions and office politics, regardless of which corporation that you're working for, right? Kind of going back to that first sign that we talked about, if you've been on this rodeo a few times, or maybe one office environment kind of got really negative and so you left and you went to a different company and you're dealing with the same thing, listen, it just might be a sign that, corporate America has run its course for you, and it's really time for you to create your own environment and your own work office politics, right? Your home office politics, right? Where you're the only person that you have to deal with, and really your own company culture. Think about how you can be the change that you want to see. I know that is a big, big thing for me. I love that I'm able to provide flexible work opportunities for people, flexible work opportunities for women, especially. Think about all the things that you're not getting in corporate America and how you might be able to create that on your own. So if the microaggressions and the office politics are weighing you down, it might be time for you to say bye-bye to corporate America. All right, the third sign that it's probably time to go is if you are finding that across the board, your particular expertise is being devalued. And I actually thought about this because I have a lot of friends and colleagues who are operating in the DE&I space. So if you're not familiar with that term, it stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And while DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, was, a big talking point after, the pandemic, George Floyd, and all of this racial reckoning that we had, at least here in the United States, but I think DE&I, was big globally. Unfortunately, political tides change, and as it stands right now, that's an example of a particular expertise that is falling out of favor. I think wrongly so, because we always want to make sure that, the companies that we work for are diverse and are, being equitable to their employees, but, for whatever reason, DE&I is not a thing anymore. And so that's just one example of how you can work your entire life really developing expertise, and you're finding that corporations are cutting their budgets. They're not wanting to, invest in these roles, and you're finding that, your salary is being capped, or you're not able to command what you were able to previously. If you're finding that is the case, you might as well just go out on your own, right? If you have to go out on your own and really showcase and brand your expertise, you might as well do it in a way that you are going to recoup all of the benefits versus having to sell yourself so hard and convince someone or convince an organization that doesn't value you. So D&I is just one example, but there are many others. If you are finding that your expertise is almost systematically being devalued, and it's almost like it doesn't matter where you go, if it's company A or if it's company B, it's just the way the tides are going. This could be a great opportunity for you to take your expertise and really share it directly with the marketplace, with people who would really benefit from it and who would be willing to pay for it. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. What's your number one sign that it's time to go, that it's time to pack up and leave? Go ahead and share in the comments below. All right, the fourth sign, which is really kind of a combination of all of these, is just if you find that your mental health is suffering. I think as women, especially as women of color, me as a Black woman, I know that oftentimes we are not prioritizing our self-care, we're not prioritizing our wellness, we're not prioritizing our mental health, and 30 or 40 working years in a career is too long to be doing something that's just gonna leave you depressed, that's gonna leave you anxious. I think about all of the different medical and different conditions that are happening to women now in increasing rates because of the stress oftentimes of corporate America, because it's not really conducive to our lifestyles and the different things that we are doing. So if you're finding that you are anxious, right? We don't want you to have a heart attack. If you're finding that you are depressed, we don't want you to stay in that state. It might be time for you to think about not just moving to a different job, but moving to a different sector completely and throwing your hat out there as an entrepreneur, because at least you can control your own environment. You can control what you do or what you don't do, and you just have more freedom and flexibility and opportunities to really take care of your mental health. In fact, I talked about this in my video all around the time management shifts that I made going from 6 figures to 7 figures, and hint, hint, I touch on this quite a bit of how self-care actually makes you more productive. And so I know for me, I'm building that in on a regular basis. When I was working corporate America, it wasn't always easy just to even get off, my job early, right? If I had to leave early for something, it had to be a conversation with my boss, and I had to, put in approval and whatever. Now, if I want to schedule a massage, on a Friday, I'm able to do that. If I want to take myself out for a 3.5 hour lunch because I want to decompress and just kind of think through things on my own, I can do that. If I want to travel and run my business from a different country for a week because I just want to be abroad, I can do that. If I want to leave and participate in my kids' field trips, I can do that. And so I find that that freedom and that flexibility has contributed to my mental health so much more positively. So if you are struggling with that, you might consider striking out on your own and leaving corporate America altogether. And the fifth sign, and honestly, this was kind of my first and only sign. Not to say that I didn't deal with all the other stuff, but this was the glaring sign for me that I was like, it was time to go. I was ready to take control of my own destiny. Point blank, period. That was my sign. And I say ready to take control because I know that there's a lot of fear. Oftentimes there's fear about leaving those golden handcuffs and letting go of that security. But for me, the desire to want to own my own destiny, both economically and from a time standpoint, I was newly married and I was, thinking about starting a family with my husband, and I just couldn't reconcile how all this stuff was gonna work in corporate America. I said, you know what? I don't know how all of this is gonna turn out, but I know I won't be happy if I stay stay in this position. And so I was willing to take the risk to ultimately go for what I wanted versus staying in a position that I did not want to be in just because I was scared of what happened. So if you are in a place that you are ready to take control of your own destiny, that is the biggest sign, and truly that is the only sign that you need. All right, so if you enjoyed this video and I've encouraged you, you recognize some of these signs and you're like, oh my goodness, that's me, Courtney, I'm her, she is me, or I'm him, I'm ready to get up out of corporate America. I invite you to join my free webinar. It's a brand new masterclass that I just recorded. It's called Corporate Leader to Lucrative Coach. And it's gonna walk you through the process to do that exactly, right? So you've watched this video, the next step is to click the link in the description box. Go ahead and sign up for that webinar. Make sure you block out a solid 45 minutes to watch it, because I do go in depth, but it's gonna be very helpful for you. And I even share some tips on how you can grow your business on the side without alerting your entire office or your boss if that is going to be an issue for you. So go ahead and click the link below in order to register and to watch that webinar. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. If you loved it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you can't wait for my next video, make sure you subscribe to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And if you can't wait for my next podcast episode or my next YouTube video, make sure that we are connected, or you're following me, or whatever it is, on LinkedIn. I'm new to LinkedIn, but I'm getting more active. So I'm like, send me a LinkedIn request or DM or whatever they call it over there. Go ahead and do that on LinkedIn. And as always, you can follow me or send me a DM on Instagram. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.